People always say that you should chase your passion. You should chase your passion. How are you going to figure out your passion? It's a step before. It's the curiosity. We never speak about it. No one speaks about curiosity because in your 30s, you will have to settle down to what you are really passionate about. So 20s is again all about finding and chasing your curiosity and not your passion. Because unless and until you chase your curiosity, you're not going to find your passion. How would I have known that I love software so much unless and until I became curious about it? What if tomorrow I am more curious about NFTs, for example? Now, unless and until I dive into it, I am not going to be able to explore that industry. And if I am not able to explore that industry, how am I going to see whether I'm passionate about something? Because your passion can change.
Thanks a lot for coming in today. So Udit, I would like to start this, conversation by your backstory. Like, I love hearing stories. I would like to know where you're coming from. How did your, how was your kind of, maybe if we go very back, how was your schooling like? How did you kind of came into the field you are in? So please enlighten us with where Udit is coming from and what he does.
Thank you so much, Akshat, for having me over here and for the invite. I really appreciate it. So I started back when I was, I would say like 15, 16. I got into gaming, right? I don't know if anyone knows about Ragnarok. It used to be a crazy RPG game back in those days. And when I started playing that, it sort of really intrigued me how the internet really works and everything, right? So that got me into designs. Because I was really fascinated in terms of, because it was sort of like an open source game where you can host your own servers. So it was very intriguing to see how you can add your own designs and stuff. And the server owner used to sort of like sell some of those custom stuffs, right? In the form of, let's say, hat or random new dresses, right? All of those things. And I was very intrigued how those designs were done, because then I ended up seeing that they had a forum. And there were designers who would put out their work and stuff right over there. And sometimes they would also get paid if the designs were used and if any revenue was generated. So I sort of like got intrigued and started training myself how to design. So I would like spend time on YouTube. So now the challenge was, back in those days, we had to...
And which year are we talking about? So we know.
About 15, 16 years ago, which is probably like 2004, 5.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Great.
So the biggest challenge was internet, because we had BSNL internet, which was 256 kbps.
Yeah.
And even on that, the download speed would be anywhere from like 64 kbps to like 128 kbps. Like it would like pretty much between these. So the challenge would be that while I was also in my school, and I would like go to school, and while I would come back, I would leave the videos to buffer. Because back in those days, YouTube did not have those buffering system where it would stop downloading after, let's say, 1 minute if you haven't watched the video, right? It would just download everything. So, and I ended up getting a couple of different cache software where you, because when you download the videos, it would get into your Windows cache server, right? So I started building up my collection that way. That I would let it render, I would let the videos buffer, and I would download, and then I would come back from school and I would spend time learning it. So that's something that I continued doing during my 11th and 12th grade as well. And that is how like I got into the entire world of internet. So I started putting up my work on Orkut, because again, back in those days, Facebook was very, very brand new. So there were no people on Facebook. So with social media, it's usually if you have your own friend circle, you would join, especially when you're a teenager, right? You're not going to go out there, start looking to meet new people. That's not your goal as a teenager. You're like, Arey, bhai, if we have all the friends, let's go and we can probably like hang out and share some stuff here and there, right? So I started sharing some of my work, and that's where one of my good friend told me that, why don't you start freelancing? So that was the very first time I heard the word freelancing. I didn't even know the meaning of it. I started searching more about it, and I started putting up more of my work, and I ended up landing my first customer, who was from Israel. He asked me to design a logo. So I completed that work. After that, I started growing my career as a designer to a point where I was like, I need to learn more. I need to do something more. And while focusing on that, I did not focus on my academics at all, especially my 12th grade, right? I ended up getting 50% in my 12th grade. That shattered my dreams of becoming a software engineer, because when I saw the computer for the very first time in my school, I think I was probably in 5th grade, I think 4th or 5th grade, if I remember correctly. So I was pretty clear that I'm going to do something in computers. What I'm going to do, no clue, but I was like, this is it for me. This is going to be my career for my entire life, right? I after that I was like, I didn't want to become scientist. I don't want to become anything else, right? I just want to do something around computers. It just intrigued me, like just like you get really excited about something.
Yeah.
So that shattered my dream of becoming a software engineer. But still, what I did was I continued learning, because one thing I understood that, look, I don't need to be in a certain college to educate myself how to learn how to code, right? Whatever books they would learn, I would just ask my friends to give me the list of the books. I would go buy those books in second hand from there used to be like various stores over here in Mumbai where people who cleared their exams would just end up selling their books, right? So I got my books for pretty cheap at that point of stage, and I would just go study, and at the same time I would leave videos to buffer the same way I continued doing, because again, internet was still pretty choppy. I think internet actually became a bit more revolutionized in India back in 2016 when Geo came in, right? So I continued doing that way. I ended up learning how to code, and then I started building up applications. I started doing a lot of things around it, and that's when I ended up I ended up getting and founding my co-founder. I started my very first official startup. Flew down to US. I was doing my master's back then, but then again, I dropped out from my first year, because whatever they were teaching was so basic that I sort of joined in because I thought I'll probably learn. But rather the professor itself told the rest of the people that, hey, if you have any questions around PHP, go and ask Udit and one of my other friend. I was like, this is not what I've joined masters for, right? I don't chase degrees. That's something that's not been me. Like, I don't care about degrees at all. For me, it's about pure knowledge, right? How much you can get. And that's how like my journey started. So started my first venture, worked out very well, sold that venture, started a second venture, made an exit from that as well. The third venture is what crumbled and failed, and that was like the biggest highlighting point of my career, where things were going so linear up to a point where it just went down and became zero once again, right? And when that happened, that depression phase of 6 to 7 months taught me a lot about career, about life, about decision makings. I started evaluating what went wrong, and it took me a lot of time to come out of it. I completely cut off from the entire world during that stage. I was like, just don't know what to do at this, because I never had a mentor in my life, right? I had always figured things out just by myself, just by exploring, just by reading other people's entrepreneurial career, watching videos, and I have just figured things out. So from having two good successful companies to one very bad failure, that's what gave me the idea of building Pitchground. And I started focusing on all the fundamentals. I started focusing on all of the things that my last failure taught me, to a point where I surpassed all of my previous records as an individual. What the exits that I made today, I make more than that as a revenue per month.
It's beautiful.
Pitchground, right? But again, it has been a very hard journey for Pitchground. Sacrificed a lot, especially the first 2.5. excuse me. Especially for the first 2.5, 3 years, I was almost putting up 18 to 20 hours every single day. And that also, like, again, affected my health. But for me, this time was like, there is no option for failure, right? Either you win or you win. There is no third option, right? There's no backup plan. So I started working on that. And today, like, we are one of the biggest SaaS marketplace in the world. We are India's only and first SaaS marketplace out there. We have zero competition right now in India, and we have been like just capturing more and more and more and more market share right now at the moment in India and rest of the world. So today we have customers from over 170 countries. We have a user base of over 200,000 people, which is 2 lakh people. We have done a lifetime revenue of over $6 million so far. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And at the same time, like we're just growing very, very, very aggressively at this point, especially with the adoption of SaaS happening. While there is demand, there is also supply coming in. So we're sort of like getting both of those demands and supply at the same time. So that's how like Pitchground was born, and that's a bit of my backstory.
That's lovely, man. I absolutely so like it has been a long backstory and I enjoyed every instance of it. I was like, because you kind of took us to that entire journey of, so there is this concept of epiphany where you kind of, the user's journey, the hero's journey, and you took us through it, which is great to hear. I love, hearing stories like that. So, when you talk about the internet, I also remember when I was in 8th standard, from kind of, pulling those long lane cables and accessing the internet to getting in the lines in my college to get the Geo SIM is where I think Indian internet culture has revolutionized, because things kind of changed very drastically. There was no internet and then Geo came in and there was like internet everywhere, everybody is using, and then there is no fear of data. I remember, kind of getting the 3G data on mobile internet and every time switching off my mobile data so it doesn't kind of get exhausted, to kind of, just not worrying about internet anymore. So it has been kind of a very different shift in India, which is great. And so, Udit, so you told me that you started out as a graphic designer, in the world of freelancing, and then you were trying a lot of new things. And then from being a graphic designer, freelancer, to becoming an CEO of Pitchground, So I'm sure like all the people of my age and myself, what we struggle with is, for example, like today I'm interested in something, So how do you go from starting your career with one thing to actually, getting the clarity? Okay, now I know exactly what I want to do. I want to start a Pitchground. So I want to understand like what were those points and what were those instances in your career where you're like, Udit, now you know exactly what you want to do. You want to start a Pitchground. You want to make it a SaaS company, which will lead the Indian market. So how does the clarity comes, from being just a freelance graphic designer to actually becoming a CEO of a company which kind of lead in its segment? I think that clarity for any entrepreneur would be paramount and crucial to understand. So I'm just trying to understand, how did it came for you specifically?
I think that's a great question. I read a lot of biographies, and when I read the biography of Jack Ma, that book and his videos gave me a lot of clarity of what entrepreneurs should do, because you always have to look up to someone who has made it and you have to learn from them. That's the only way any entrepreneurs can move forward. So for me, the entire 20 to 30 journey, right, was all about experimenting whatever I want to do, right? It was all about testing things out. It was all about seeing what happens, what doesn't happen. So the 20s was all about figuring out. Right? Your 30s should be about, I have figured out everything.
Now I will build
exactly what I want to do for the next 20, 30 years of my life, so that now this 10 years that I'm devoting in my 30s, so I'm 31, turned 31 last November. So now this 30 is so clear that I want to take Pitchground to an IPO stage now. In this decade, that's what I'm going to do. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with SaaS. That's something that I love. I love marketing. And Pitchground is the combination of both the things that I absolutely love, which is software and marketing, right? It's one of those dream projects that I would say that I never thought I had a dream about, right? Life just takes you in that path and journey. As long as you're willing to work on it, life will always take you to the right path. So for me, that clarity happened after my last failure. And the best part was that failure happened in my 20s. That was the best part for me. Because of that, failure would have happened in my 30s. In your 30s, the risk appetite becomes it slightly differs, and it's lower, because again, you have a lot of responsibility on your shoulder, because you have to take care of your families in your 30s, right? In your 20s, you're still out there. Your parents are like probably in late 40s, right? Or mid 40s. So at that stage, you can still go out there, sort of experiment, because they're still like doing great, right? But in your 30s, your responsibility towards contributing towards your home expenses and all of those things, it goes up. So at that stage, the risk appetite becomes slightly less. And this is why it's so important that you need to have that clarity of what exactly you want to do. And this is why that clarity happened to me during my 20s, that when I was also building my first company, we were primarily dealing with software companies and VPN companies, because I had ended up building up a hosting company, which was my first company. And it wasn't sort of like any sort of retail. We actually had our own servers, own routers. It was all co-located across 4 different cities: New Jersey, then Dallas, then Los Angeles, and Amsterdam. So we had this entire infrastructure that taught me a lot of things. So that's how it gave me the clarity that right from the very beginning I had been around softwares. So eventually, when it came to a point where Pitchground came into picture after my failure, which gave me the idea, that sort of a clarity was derived from my failures and my entire life journey in my 20s, that led to me focusing on just Pitchground.
Yeah, that's lovely, man. That's like it's kind of almost, enlightening to hear. It's almost I believe that entrepreneurship is, kind of you figuring out your philosophies of life, because entrepreneurship is just not about making money. So I just started out my journey like 1.5 years ago. I graduated in March 2020. I rejected my job as like, no, this is not my thing, because I was at a stable position. So I was like, okay, let's pursue entrepreneurship and creation, what I absolutely enjoy at this moment at least. So I think entrepreneurship teaches you a lot of different aspects of life. You understand life at its core, how to live it. You understand the failures, you understand the success, and all those different small things that actually matter to you in life, right? So so I talk to a lot of people who are my age, my friends, and I also have that mentality. So we all know that you need to be patient. You do not have to chase that instant gratification. But what I believe is, in the world we are living and we are moving towards, there are just so much inputs penetrating our mind every now and then. So many new things coming around, like trading, and nobody was talking about trading and investing before 2020. Like people knew it, but nobody kind of paid so much attention to it. Then NFTs came, then crypto, altcoins, and it is just getting faster and faster. It is getting accelerated. So what I'm trying to understand from you, for everyone who is 22, 23, 24, 25 today, who are kind of paying attention to what they are doing, but at the same time they also have this factor in the mind कि अच्छा उस इंसान ने NFT flip करके they made a lot of money, so I also want to do that. So what are some pieces of advice that you would like to give to them about focusing on your own art, and not kind of pivoting every now and then? And what is the importance of kind of paying attention to what you are enjoying in the moment and not pivoting? Experimenting is a good thing, which is great, but what are the also disadvantages of pivoting from one thing to another trend? Trading, NFTs, crypto, people are doing all kind of things, and I believe because of that, even myself, I have kind of seen it myself, that I'm unable to focus on that one thing that I absolutely enjoy, which is marketing and creating content. And I'm always pivoting, and all the thoughts are in my mind about all the different things. So what would be your thoughts on that, and what are some pieces of advice you would like to give to people like me?
I would say focus is ultra important in life, right? To build something that people will remember, it's going to take you over a decade of hard work. Also, but then again, it's very important when things are not working out, you need to have and faith in your gut at that stage. Yeah, things are not working out, because not necessarily every idea would be a hit, right? So when I failed in my last venture, it came to a point where I had to pull the plug off, that it has to stop, because I was just bleeding cash. I was just bleeding more and more cash in trying to build something where a lot of fundamentals went wrong, right? From my team to everything else, right? And this is why it's very important to pull that plug off. Once you do that, it's again, if someone is in their 20s, it's completely okay to experiment, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to again try to settle down on one thing. That's what I would say. Just experiment whatever you want, because you have time in your hand, and time is such a beautiful thing, because that's the only thing people in their 50s, 60s today, they don't have. You cannot buy time regardless of how much money you have. So this is why the 20s to 30s, go and explore, because it's about spending the next 30, 40 years of your life after that. So spend as much time as you want. If you want to do NFTs, do it. If you want to do marketing, do it. If you want to do trading, do it. Again, understand your risk appetite and everything, and understand what sort of a responsibility you have towards your family, towards your financial goals, towards everything. Experiment all of those things, because in your 30s, you will be, again, you have to settle down to what you are really passionate about. So 20s is again all about finding and chasing your curiosity and not your passion. Because unless and until you chase your curiosity, you're not going to find your passion. How would I have known that I love software so much unless and until I became curious about it? People always say that you should chase your passion. You should chase your passion. How are you going to figure out your passion? It's a step before. It's the curiosity. We never speak about it. No one speaks about curiosity. So that curiosity is what leads to something else. So what if tomorrow I am more curious about NFTs, for example? Now, unless until I dive into it, I am not going to be able to explore that industry. And if I am not able to explore that industry, how am I going to see whether I'm passionate about something? Because your passion can change. But again, this is why you have to be firm with how you're doing things in a certain way. This is very important. So slowing things down and then focusing on that curiosity is the most critical part. But then again, in your 30s, again, you have to limit and minimize your risk appetite. So if in your 30s, if you want to become a full-time trader, it requires a lot of capital. If you're going to come in with a capital of 2 lakh rupees and trade, how much are you going to make, right?
Absolutely.
Trading, you can expect to make about 3 to 4% per month maximum. So 2 lakh rupees, that's about like what, 6 to 8,000 rupees? You will make more as an intern working somewhere at that stage.
Absolutely.
So one also have to understand what industry they're getting into, because every industry requires a certain capital in order to grow. Now, if you're coming with, let's say, 50 to 80 lakh rupees to trade, now that you have done that, you understand the industry, you understand everything, you understand all the technical parameters, you understand your risk appetite. Now, if you make 3% of that 50 lakh, you then potentially are making 1.5 lakh per month at that stage. Now, that's a pretty decent amount, I would say, to get started with, get going with, because that's almost 18 lakhs annually if you're making that. And now if you're able to make that 18 lakhs, put that 18 lakhs into long-term investments. So that money that you have generated will continue making more money for you behind the scene at that stage.
Yep.
So that is the most important part. Now, if you're getting into NFTs, again, it's fine, but have your clear mission, focus on your community, because NFTs are all about community building.
And marketing and community, yep.
All community building. If you do not have a community, your NFTs are going to flop. You see one success, but behind that one success, there is also 9,999 failed projects out there. So you also have to understand that. And the last aspect is, again, continue on what you're working otherwise as well, because you need to have a core income stream coming in. And that core income stream needs to come from your passion. Once you have figured out your curiosity, that passion is what needs to lead to that sort of a revenue stream coming in, so that you can, again, build out things. So today, in my 30s now, I have come to a point that after making my exits, Pitchground doing so well, I've slowly started investing in early stage startups, because I have that risk appetite that if I end up losing this money, it's not going to shatter me, because that's an extra flow of money that's coming in. So now, slowly and steadily, I've started investing in startups because I'm, again, very passionate about investing in general. So apart from the stock market investments, I continuously keep on investing in good startups. But then again, I have my expertise where I stick with technological startups. That's my core expertise, is technology. So around technology or finance, but even in finance, it needs to be a fintech. Right? Not just pure finance play. So anything that is around technology, I am very curious, and I would come in and I would invest. I would also support, because that's the kind of a content that I'm creating. That's the kind of a content that I'm catering to my audience. And that's what I absolutely love. So I would be able to give inputs to these early stage companies at the same time. So this is why it's very important to pick your industry, because every industry is massive today. So that's what I would recommend to anyone in their 20s, basically.
Lovely, man. That's very insightful. Like, I just cannot, let my attention drift just for a moment. And I was just paying attention to every word that you spoke over here. And that's the reason why I kind of start this podcast. I don't care about views. I just want to talk to people, because I believe when you are having, genuine conversations with people, the amount of knowledge that you can just consume just by having conversations with them surpasses any other medium of consuming content. That's what I believe in. And that's my why of, starting this podcast. So what we do is we have this one segment Productize. Okay, so I have already kind of researched your Twitter profile, and I kind of filtered out few tweets out of that, and you already picked out one tweet out of it, which is follow your curiosity, not your passion. So that's one tweet less from that segment, which is great. We will kind of move towards that segment in a while over here. Yeah. So that's a great. So Udit, you also talked about, when you kind of gave an example of that, you only have, let's say, 2 lakh rupees and you're kind of getting into trading full time. And so that leads me to, a conversation where, everyone on the internet is talking about passive income, building a corpus where income is coming from all the different places, earning money while you're sleeping and all the things, which I do not personally believe in. I believe that everything is active at one moment in time. Like, even if it is passive, you have put in work on it and for it in some time, and that is why it is passive. So what's happening with, people in my age group is everybody is about, I want to make passive income streams. I want to do this. I want to do that. And in that chase, in the run of making passive income streams, I think a lot of people are kind of, not paying attention to that one skill, that one aspect of their career, which is going to bring them money actively for the rest of their life, and then they can use that money to make passive income out of it. Yeah. So what do you think is the way to go about it? Like, should someone, kind of figure out what their active income source is and then kind of start parallelly investing in passive income streams, or should they just, kind of accumulate enough wealth with their active stream and then go about creating their different passive income streams? What do you think about that?
So firstly, I don't believe passive income even exists, right?
Yeah.
Everything is active. If you are involved, it's active. It's as
It's
simple.
active.
Even if you're investing, it's active. It's not passive, right? What is really happening is you're splitting up your time in doing 2-3 different things. So how is that passive?
That's
If
not
you're
passive. Yeah.
making contents and even selling courses, that is not passive income. That's active income because you have worked on that. And if you start getting bad feedbacks around your courses, you have to spend time in updating your
Exactly.
content. So that's active. So for me, the word passive doesn't exist in my dictionary. Now, anything that you do, I think if we talk about investments, for an example, if someone is just starting out, I think they can just start with something very simple, with as simple as mutual funds, just to build good habits. Because in your early 20s, how much are you potentially making? 30,000 INR, 40,000 INR per month. That is not enough for investments, but that is good enough to start building good habits.
Habit for investment.
So habit is the most important thing, because unless and until you understand and build good habits, you are not going to build a better life. Today, our younger generation don't think twice to spend money, right? They're like, ek zindagi hai, hum jiyenge.
I have the exactly same mentality, and tell me if it is good enough or it is wrong. My dad keep telling me it doesn't matter how much money you earn, you have to save it. And I was like, so I have this very strict mentality, live in the moment. And sometimes it is not healthy for me, So what would you like to tell upon that as well?
Even right now, about 50 to 55% of the salary that I pick up from my company, I invest them. Since I have a very good understanding about businesses, so I either end up investing them in mutual funds, I end up investing them in direct equity stocks, and then a small portfolio goes into investing into startups. So last year I started with startup investment, where I invested in roughly around 13 startups. And anytime I see a good opportunity, I sort of like use that capital that I have to invest in them when I believe in them. So again, what is really important over here is to build good habits from a very, very early stage. So now that I end up investing about 50 to 55% of my income, I am down crunching numbers because I am in the 30% bracket. I'm left with 20% to handle my entire expenses for me, my family. So even in that 20%, I try to see how I can further reduce it down whenever possible. But that doesn't mean that I would be compromising on the quality of my life at any point of stage, because eventually, look, you're working very hard. So yeah, I think that's what I was saying, that it's very important that you understand those things and then sort of like start taking decisions accordingly.
Makes sense. So to just quickly summarize it, so you just kind of pay attention to your active income, and with the income that you're earning, you cannot go all in on your passive streams, but start the habits early that will help you in the future and in your career ahead, to help you, kind of go all in on those passive streams with the active income that you're earning as your active income increases, which is a great point, by the way. Like, so some people would be like, I invest almost everything just in order to make passive income from my active income, or some people would be like, I do not invest anything because I do not have enough money. So I think you have to find that sweet spot in middle somewhere where you kind of start building your habits, right? Which is a great point to note. So Udit, from selling multiple ventures, failing a venture, to building a successful company in India and where you're servicing clients across the world, there might have been a lot of roles that you took as an entrepreneur in your businesses. What are those few things that you have a love-hate relationship with when it comes to entrepreneurship? Because I think there are few things where you are like, no, sometimes I like it, sometimes no, it's irritating for me. So what are those few things you have been in your life, in your career and in your journey?
I think the entrepreneurship itself is that love and hate relationship, right? Because one day you get up and you feel like, nahi yaar, it's not possible. The next day you get up with 10 times more energy and you're like, let's freaking do it, right? Yeah. So entrepreneurship itself is that journey where you sort of have different emotions that goes through. One day you get very good sales and you're super excited. The next day you are getting low sales and you're like, यार मतलब कहीं गलत इंडस्ट्री में तो नहीं घुस गए ठीक है. So that is a constant journey that you will always have. You'll feel like quitting multiple times. You'll feel like again pursuing a lot of time. A lot of roller coaster will keep on happening every single day for yourself. So within that, now I think again it's about how you structure things. So for me, one thing that my last startup has taught me is focus on sales more than marketing, more than building. Focus on selling. That is so very important. So that is, I would say, like, it's something that I love. And then again, slowing down is what I hate. But then again, this is again it's something important. That's very critical. Yeah. Right? You cannot just try to go at such a rapid pace, because the quicker you would go up, the faster you would come down. That is how the world of economics work. We cannot change that. Anyone who has tried to go up very quickly has come down at the exact same equal rate. But anyone who has grown consistently, you take an example of the founder of Zoho and Zoho as a company. 22 years in making, still bootstrapped, profitable, build over 50-60 products today, and they're growing consistently with a core mission that the founder has. So again, consistently kept on building. He has gotten so many acquisition offers. It's like, I'm not interested, because I've built this company to serve the community. I've built the company to help more people out. I have built the company to create job employment. Purpose is clear. So that purpose of an entrepreneurship is very important. So that's why I would say, like, that good hate and love relationship will always be there as an entrepreneur towards entrepreneurship.
That's great, man. So I read this book, Start With Why, which from Simon Sinek, and like it stuck with me. He says, like, if you can figure out what your why is, you will be able to figure out how to do and what to do. And I think it is extremely important to kind of have that sense of belonging in a community and sense of kind of have a reason of doing things. Because at the start, like when you are in the college, everybody is like, I want to make as much money as possible in the shortest amount of time possible. And then soon you realize, once you have decent amount of money, which is a kind of extra for you, you are like, now what? Now I don't know what really is that I'm interested in. So I think that sense of why is extremely important, right? So Udit, now I'm going to kind of drift this conversation towards service and deciding your market, because I think for any freelancer, for any service provider, it is slightly easier to figure out what your skills are and what your services are, because that's in your in your control. How would you say a person who is just starting out in the world of service figure out what market to serve? Like, what are those key points that you will look into before kind of entering into any market that you will provide services to? Like, how would you decide, okay, this is the market that I want to enter in with the services that I have?
The most important thing is how good you are with the problem solving statement. For anyone in general to grow professionally, you need to have problem solving skills. This is regardless whether you're doing freelancing, you are building a company, or you're doing a job. It is regardless. You have to solve a problem. Even if you are working offline, let's say in a restaurant, that's still a problem statement, right? You have to solve that problem statement. So people pay for the problems to be solved. That's what people pay for.
Absolutely.
Or people pay for, even if you're buying and spending on entertainment, that is still a problem. That how do you entertain people? And people pay for that. So understanding what sort of a problem that you can solve and how effectively you can solve is going to be directly related to how much money you're going to make.
So basically, value provided is equals to money earned, right? That's the equation.
I wouldn't call it value. I would call it problem solving, because problem solving is very different than providing value. Just because I can solve a problem, but that doesn't mean I'm adding more value to your life. Right? So they both are completely different, yet they can be directly proportional to each other at the same time. But they are again sort of indirectly proportionate as well. So I can provide as much value as I want, but that doesn't mean that it's going to convert into a sale. I can sell all day long without even providing value. People would not care because their problem is getting solved.
Yeah.
So this is where the value part comes in, to retain people. That's where you have to understand the difference between the value proposition and your core selling proposition and your problem solving capabilities. Basically.
So basically, people will come to you for you being able to solve their problem, and they will stay for you providing the value, if I'm not wrong. If that makes sense. Okay, that's a great tweet. That's a great tweet. I will tweet it and I will mention you from Udit, yeah, which is great. Okay, so Udit, also, like, I am into service business myself, and I have been reading all of the place, productize your services, and it doesn't matter how much articles I read about it and how many videos I watch about it. This one concept has just not settled in my mind, because the thing with the services, you have to provide experience to your client, and every client is absolutely different. The way they talk, the way they want their deliverables to get to them, the way they want to take things forward is absolutely different for every client. So how would you say, first of all, how would someone build those structures where you're able to productize your service, and what would be the steps to go towards it? It is a selfish question, and I think everybody would find it very useful, because I think you would have kind of productized a lot of your services at this point in time, where you have kind of built your company at that point. So I would really like to know about how would you go about productizing your services? Like, what are the steps involved?
I think that's a great question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to how SaaS works, right? Which is software as a service. So long ago, what used to happen was people used to do a lot of things manually in the service industry. Now, this is where software started coming into picture. There you would try to figure out that how can you minimize the cost for a person by reducing their cost. And one of the best ways was to introduce software, which is a self-serving problem-solving solution. Basically, that's what SaaS is all about. So let's take an example of Razorpay.
Okay.
It's sort of a SaaS. Right?
It's a SaaS, yeah.
Now there is a way where you can either go to someone's house, take a check, come back, or send someone or ask the person to send a check and make a payment. Or you can ask them to do a bank transfer via UPI. You can do all of those things. Or you can just add it on your website, make it very easy for people to just click, pay, and get the product delivered. Now, if we talk about the first step, which is the first solution, the problem is that it will probably take about 5 to 7 days for the person to receive their solution. Now, how do we reduce that time? This is where something like Razorpay comes into picture, for an example. You make the payment, you get your product delivered. Now, how do you deliver that product? You can, even with Razorpay, that doesn't solve the problem. So now let's say that if you are selling courses, you have solutions built around it where you can deliver as soon as the payment is done, you can deliver a service, you can deliver that particular course. Now, let's dive into a bit more. That's how the entire cost for running a services was reduced. Now let's take an example of another couple of SEO softwares, right? So I'm going to take an example of SEMrush because it's a publicly traded company.
Yeah.
So back in those days, just to audit your website, it would cost you anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 by an SEO expert. Now that's very expensive for a small business owner who doesn't even know whether he's going to get his money's worth or not. This is where solution like SEMrush came in, and they just built out a solution where you can put up your website link and it would analyze and automate things for you, and will give you a complete report of what all things you need to fix. Now, directly from that $4,000, $5,000, $2,000 to $5,000 cost, your cost has been reduced to almost $100 per month. And you as a business owner, you're like, this is something that I love because I can get the information right away. There is no lag. There is no delay. I can put up the information and within 30 minutes, I'll get my entire report, or within 15 minutes, I'll get my entire report, which in the service industry itself will take long. Now for the service provider as well, this is way better because I would spend 1 week analyzing. Now I can spend just 1 day analyzing and I can take more clients.
Yeah.
My clients are happy because if they still don't know about the software, what I'll do is I'll charge them $300 because I know that it's taking only 15, 20 minutes, or let's say even half an hour. At that stage, if I'm taking $300, I'm basically making $600 an hour. And again, for doing nothing, the reports are again created by itself. You're downloading a report, creating a summary out of it, and sending it. That's $600 an hour that you're making. I would love to do that. So it's a win-win situation for service providers as well. This is where the productizing of services came into picture. And this is why SaaS as an industry is growing so aggressively, is because it's reducing people's cost of that service. Because it is impossible down the road that people would be afford to just keep buying on services because things are getting expensive. People are getting expensive. The inflations are hitting up right now. So to hire a good professional today, they wouldn't come cheaper than a few $1,000s a month today. Because of inflation, the cost is going up. How are you going to reduce that cost? It's only with the help of software. That's the only way to reduce it. Now, how can service providers start doing the same and productize their service?
That's what I'm really excited about.
So now let's say that you provide coaching, a one-to-one podcast coaching as a service. You have done so much podcast to a point where now you can train people that, hey, let's do one-on-one coaching where I'll tell you what sort of question to ask, how to reach out to people, how to convince them to get on a podcast, how to make them share content, how to leverage on their network, right? You have created a coaching around it. Now, usually you would sell this coaching for nothing less than $2,000 because if you're doing one-to-one coaching, it needs to ensure that your time's worth is converted in the form of money at the same time. Now, $2,000 can be a lot for a lot of people.
Yep.
So what you would do is you would end up creating a video content around it, different guides around it. That, hey, I understand you cannot afford to spend $2,000, but you can spend $200. If you cannot, then probably you need to reevaluate your entire business at that stage, right? So here are my contents. I have productized whatever I'm going to do one-to-one coaching, and then I'm going to provide you a bit of support on top of that. Now, if you still need and want to buy my time after you have gone through the courses, then you can pay me on that per hour basis. So I'll get on a call with you for half an hour or 1 hour, and you pay me $50 or $100 for that 1 hour, which is again very beneficial because 1 hour of someone's time, you can get a lot of information out. 1 hour is not a small time at all when you're just continuing.
That's what I'm doing over here.
So, this is how you can start productizing the services and you can reach to masses now, because now you are looking for 10 clients a year. Instead of doing that, now you can potentially sell your product to 1,000 people. Your cost remains the same at that point of stage. And that's how you start scaling up. Now, the same thing can happen with graphics as well. There are so many people who are creating the same graphics over and over and over again. You're trying to create the same graphics for everyone over and over. Instead, what you can do is you can create a basket of banner templates. You can create a basket of templates on Canva, for an example. This is the reason why softwares like Canva is growing, because they let you create templates. And since the other person doesn't have to pay for the software, they can pretty much edit for free. Then you can just basket up those templates for yourself and sell it across for, let's say, just $20 or $30. Instead of someone coming and paying you $400, $500, which is again problematic for service industry, because you only have 24 hours. Out of that, if you're going to work for 10 hours, you cannot make more money than that in service industry. You're limited because you have limited time. But if you productize that and make it cheaper, you would start gaining more user base. So the world economics would work in this way, that anyone who comes in industry with a better solution at a cheaper cost would grow. And this has been around for decades, right? You have innovation, but if you can make that innovation cheaper without compromising on the quality, people will start buying from you. There is nothing known as loyalty in the world when it comes to, we say that we are loyal to this brand, we are loyal to that brand. But imagine you're using Shore's mic right now. But imagine if someone else comes in with the exact same quality
at cheaper price,
5,000 rupees. Would you still be brand loyal to Shore? Tell me that.
Nope. Yep. Makes sense.
This is how businesses work. So you have to constantly innovate to improve the product infrastructure and then reduce the cost. If you're able to do that, that's when in the product industry, when you start productizing your services, you start capturing more market at that point of stage.
Makes sense, man. Udit, thanks a lot for that answer. Really appreciate it. A lot of insights. People would absolutely love it. So Udit, what we'll do is, just so you know where we're moving towards, we'll just dive into few technical questions, and then we'll end the podcast on my segment called Productize, where I'll just pick up some of your tweets and I would like you to elaborate upon, right? So Udit, I have two questions. Next two questions would be, number one, you have been in the industry for so long. So what do you think for any service provider, if they are, let's say they have a global market, okay, they're selling in India as well, and they're selling outside the country as well, right? Now, I think it in a way that if you as a service provider price your services in dollars and you try to sell it in the Indian market, sometimes there is this blockage in Indian people's mind. As soon as they see dollar, they're like, no, it is going to be costly. I think it that way. So in your experience of last, 5-10 years or whatever your career has been around, what do you think about that? Like, is it still viable option, or is it doesn't make any difference if you kind of price your services in dollars to the Indian market, and how Indian market basically react to it? That's my first question. And then second question would be, we'll dive into, the marketing segments like search engine optimization, and then we'll go to paid advertising, which I have a few questions about.
So the first thing with regards to dollars, I would say that which language do you speak?
Okay, English, Hindi, whatever, yeah. But we are also marketing to Indian audience in English. So yeah.
So the reason I asked you this question is, if I ask you a question in Marathi, right? And if you're not Maharashtrian, if you don't understand Marathi, you'll find it very difficult to understand. The same is the case with the currencies as well. So today, if I tell you that, hey, pay me 1 Bitcoin, you would be like, hey, just 1 Bitcoin. But then you say, oh no, 1 Bitcoin is $30,000, $35,000. And then from that $35,000, you then multiply that and see, arey nahi, ye to yaar, matlab ye to 25-30 lakh rupees ho gaye. So you make it convenient for people. I'm going to charge you 25-30 lakh. Right? This is why it's very important. If you go and talk dollars in Europe, it is very difficult because people then start, you're making them work.
They have to convert in their minds.
They have to take out their calculator. They have to work on that. And this is something that every company in the future tries to solve. But this requires you to set up different companies in different countries, basically, because you can legally cannot show that unless until you're registered in that company, in that particular country, in that particular region. So, but since you are selling services, you don't have to bother about it at that point of stage. So just tell them in INR itself, if you're targeting Indian audience, because you are saving them mental time of doing that calculation. So instead of me telling you, I'm going to charge you $1,000, I'm simply going to say, hey, I'm going to charge you $75,000. They will not reverse calculate, arey nahi, ye $1,000. They will not do that because people stick with local currencies and local language, and they're more comfortable with that. So you as a provider needs to ensure that you are making it comfortable for people to understand. Now, a lot of time, a lot of our customers from Canada, right, they find it challenging to see the price on our website because the
It's in
Canadian
USD.
dollar, yeah, the Canadian dollar and the USD dollar has a difference in currency. The same is with Singapore dollar, and the same is the problem with Australian dollar. So many times they have to take out the calculator. But then again, we cannot show it because we are a product company, right? We cannot show the differences in pricing until and unless we end up setting up a company in all of those regions. Until and unless we do that, we cannot legally show. But again, for services, I will just make it local for them at that point of stage, because again, they don't have to do all those basic calculations, as I'm only going to issue maybe like 5 or 15 invoices a month. Because if you're providing services and have 15-20 clients, trust me, that's a lot. You cannot cater more than that, to be very honest with you.
100%.
That itself is a lot. So that's how you need to go about, and trust me, you will have better conversions.
Makes sense. I think it is just about reducing the resistance for your user base or your clients, right? So, and I also think the way people behave online is the less the resistance, the more the conversions. That's how I still think about it. Because if you give them more options, if you give them more mental hassle, they would kind of would be like, okay, I will kind of take care of it afterwards, and they kind of switch, they kind of pivot, they go to other products that is kind of reducing that resistance for them, which is great. Okay, so we have talked about product, we have talked about services. There has been a lot in this conversation. Now that I would like to understand, what do you think is Indian market moving towards when it comes to marketing? Like, what is the change that you've been seeing in Indian population as a whole when it comes to marketing? Because I still, think about it that like just 4-5 years ago, people were not comfortable buying from random D2C brands, and now we are seeing so many D2C brands kind of evolving, even D2C brands going public, so there has been a lot of shift when it comes when it comes to the masses in Indian population. So what do you think marketing is going to look like, and what marketing tactics are going to be more beneficial for anyone who is in marketing when it comes to Indian audience?
I think that's a great question, Akshay. I would say the education part is very critical, and the people who are spending money are far more educated, and that's why they understand the benefits of buying a certain product, and they don't mind. At the same time, I would say that the media are sort of highlighting a lot of things that are happening in the industry. So there are again goods and bads of everything. So I'm going to talk about the goods, right? So media coming up and talking about it is good. About 10 years ago or 15 years ago, we used to see the anchors on a news channel as, oh my God, they are anchors. But today we see them, hey, they are just content creators like you and me. There is no difference between them, right? Yes. The only difference is they are broadcasting their content on a very different channel. And this is where the democratization has happened for content creators on platforms like YouTube, on platforms like Facebook, on platforms like Twitter, where you can just post up your contents. So that democratization is very important today. So that has also played a major role, that people connecting with other people has become a lot more easier. People being able to educate to people has become a lot more easier. Today, if I'm selling a D2C product, I can reach out to a very good influencer who is very educative in that industry, has built his or her audience, community, and they can just talk about it in the form of education. Because I always say marketing is education, marketing is not selling. So you can just go out there and educate the user that, look, this is the benefit of this product. Now it's up to you whether you want to buy it or not. So that has become a lot more relevant. Reaching out to people has become a lot more easier today than back in those days. And that communication is the key, where you today can close. And I'm sitting over here in Mumbai, and I'm dealing with US customers, Canadian customers in UK, right? Someone probably sitting in Himachal Pradesh is one of our customer. Again, at a tip of a button over here. But
absolutely.
About 10-15 years ago, this wasn't the case. And that's why it was very hard and difficult. So that transition has happened. The education part has happened. And at the same time, the younger generation is able to make some very good money as compared to what money used to be made about 10, 15, 20 or 25 years ago. it has become a lot more easier because the opportunities are opening up. Because of the communication aspect, there are more opportunities that are coming up. So that is what I would say, like, that is happening. Now, in terms of the marketing that would really work, would be two major things. First, the founders have to be very aggressive in terms of personal branding. Because what I'm seeing is that people buy from people. So right now, you are speaking with Udit and not someone from Pitchground.
Pitchground, yeah.
Right? Brands cannot be humans, no matter how much brands try.
Yeah,
There are brands who
just a small point to add over there. So when I see spaces, that Pitchground host and you are a co-host. So if you are not a co-host and Pitchground is hosting it, I am less inclined to join the space. But if I see Udit is in the space, I'm more inclined towards it. That's a very basic, small example of how personal branding can help. So yeah,
and
you just go.
This is where the founders who are not focusing on personal branding will suffer a lot, because again, people trust people. People like seeing faces. People don't like seeing a logo and speaking to a logo. So that is why what we do is we put up Pitchground as a host and me as a co-host, and then I do all the talking, basically. Yeah. But this also gives brand exposure because people can see, okay, he's from Pitchground. And then they check my profile and say, oh, he's the CEO of Pitchground. So that is how you have to use your personal brand. The second and foremost and most important thing is building up a community today. So when you focus on your personal branding along with building up a community, that is where you can explode your brands today. Because community is all about sharing, helping, and a community with a clear same purpose, basically. So when you do that, you start attracting more people to join that community. And that is where I feel is the major difference. That's where you start growing things up. And that's where the marketing is heading towards in 2022 and moving forward.
Great points over there, Udit. So like I still think the same, and I think the power that personal branding has in itself, the power the content curation has in itself, it's like people just do not understand how powerful it is. Like today you can just start creating content around the things that interest you, and you can make money that you will make in any fresher job. Like if you're doing a job just for the sake of doing a job and you're not creating content around things that you like, I think you're missing out a great opportunity. Like it has never been more easier to work on the things that you enjoy and also actually make money out of it. So that has kind of absolutely blown my mind, and that is one thing. Creating content has like changed my career as well, and like I would have been at a completely different place if I wouldn't have been started creating content. So that's that. So Udit, now I have always been of that notion, because we are the generation of instant gratification, like people call us, that search engine optimization is something which is going to take a lot of time. It is in it's natural for search engine optimization to take a lot of time. But I have seen a few of your tweets that consistently applying the practices of search engine optimization have given you greater results after some time period for your company as well. So but still I am like, search engine optimization is a very lazy way of marketing. It takes a lot of efforts, but you do not see the results upfront. So enlighten us with what is the future of search engine optimization and how beneficial it has been for you and Pitchground.
SEO will continue working regardless whether it's 2020, 30, 40, 50. It will continue working because you need something to search. You need information, and you need a way to search those information. Imagine a world without Google.
It's not
where are you going to find information, right? So you need a global directory. Second, I say this over and over again, that SEO is like a mutual fund. Right? It's not a short-term trading. It's not even a long-term investments. It's that mutual fund where you have to just keep on investing. Like your contents are your SIP. You just keep on putting up contents. You just keep on putting up contents. Right? You have to wait, because the beauty about YouTube and SEO on Google is that the older the content gets, the better the discovery. Unlike platforms like Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, where your contents are short-lived.
Makes
because
sense.
people are not going to come and search for something on Instagram and your content will show up. That doesn't happen on any of these platforms,
Yeah.
right? Google, which is your typical SEO, and your YouTube are the only two platforms where your content, the older it gets, the more discoverable it gets, because then that means more reputation has been put up on those content. That's why it has more views, more engagements, and things like those. So you have to start investing into SEO, even if it's a small bit, right? So if you do not have the budget to have 20-30 articles a month, at least put one content.
Something.
How much is that one content going to cost you? Even if you get a good, decent writer, that is about 4,000 rupees, 3,000 rupees, which is why I call it a mutual fund, right? You are investing. How much? Like usually people invest 500 to 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees a month. Now this is your business. It's going to give you the highest ROI. So when you do the right research, when you do the right content research and build up a content, one content will hardly cost you about 3,000 rupees. But then again, there are AI tools available to even reduce that cost. So now you can produce up to 4 content for the same cost. Use that as an opportunity. Put up that right content for people and just consistently keep putting up, doing your research. That's how you sort of systematically build a good habit for your company. And eventually after a year, when you will start seeing the SEO is slowly kicking in, you will start seeing the search traffic coming in. So this is that money that goes into the long-term sustainability of your business. Because if I stop my ads today, my sales stops. And you cannot keep spending money on performance marketing. Any big brand has grown today because of search engine optimization. Canva today is valued at $40 billion. If you look at their case study and if you check any of the founders' interview, the founder has said that she invested majority of her money on just SEO. If you search any graphic related content today or templates, you will only see Canva.
100%.
You look at HubSpot, search anything around marketing.
HubSpot is there.
HubSpot in the first 10 pages.
Absolutely. Every time.
You look at Neil Patel.
Anything
around marketing, you will see his name. If you look at anything around SEO as a content, you will see SEMrush, Ahrefs, and Backlinko.
100%.
Right? Now, all of these people didn't go out there and marketed themselves on social media. They just focused on contents around their blog, around their website, and that SEO is driving them all the results, all of the sales, revenue, everything. So you have to consistently keep on investing. So we started doing this a while back, and today we have thousands of visitors coming in where we are not paying a single penny for them. And now we are looking to scale it up further because we have come to a point where we can start investing more into contents today. So we're trying to drive more users. We're trying to make more relevant searches out there. That's what we are doing right now at the moment. And that is what is really helping us to really grow as a company, because that is the only way you can also get relevant users. Because why do you go and search when you need information, when you want to buy something?
Google or YouTube.
I'm not on google.com just seeing and watching and wondering things, right? I will only go on that platform when I intend to do that. That is the beauty about that platform, that people will only go on Google when they need something. And when you are out there right at that stage, you convert them.
Lovely.
That is the difference. That's how important SEO is. Companies that have not focused on this channel have not sustained for a long period. They have grown, but they have not sustained. Because if you keep on spending money on ads, the CAC price through performance marketing is going up by 25% every year, because more startups are coming in, more funding is happening, and more spends are happening on these platforms. This is why it's very important to focus on SEO.
Okay. For all the people who do not know what CAC is cost of acquiring a customer. So some people who do not know the technical terms will be like, what did just Udit said. So Udit, I have never heard a better comparison of SEO to mutual fund. Like, it blew my mind. So we have seen people creating content on marketing. We have seen people creating content on finance, and that's what happened when you figure out exactly what you're interested in, because then you can relate to both the worlds. Like, no one would ever think that marketing can be related to finance, but since you have been dive deep into both those concepts and both those fields so deeply, you are even able to connect marketing with finance, which is the beauty of actually figuring out what you're passionate about. And it is just exciting, and it blows my mind every day how people can connect two different worlds, which to the outside world seems mutually exclusive. But when you are so invested in those things, you can just connect all the things here and there, and it blows my mind, right? So that I have seen that you have been investing a lot of, you have kind of, uh, separating your budget for YouTube ads as well, Twitter ads. You've been doing all kind of performance marketing. After iOS 14 update, a lot of people have been doing that. They've been kind of, shifting their budgets to different platforms. So I would like to know what platforms right now are giving you the best return over investment, and where the cost of acquiring a customer has been the least for you. And what are your thoughts on Facebook ads after the iOS update?
I think those are great questions, Akshat. So your channel will really depend upon where your audience is. So
yeah, that's for sure.
That what works for me, that might not work for you because your audience might not be over there. So what works for me is Google and YouTube, because we are targeting people who are looking for softwares. They don't go on Facebook to look out for softwares. They would go on Google, they would go on YouTube to learn more about it. So that's why that channel is much more relevant to us than any other channel at this point of stage. Now, what we do with Facebook is we use it to retarget people, because people go and start engaging back on Facebook groups and other and start doing different things on Facebook. This is where we keep showing up in front of them, either on Facebook or on Instagram. But we do not spend money on Facebook or Instagram for new discoveries.
Got it. So basically just the retargeting part of it.
Correct. But all the discovery part, like the new users part, we are spending all of that money on Google and YouTube.
Got it. Makes sense. Great, man. Great. So Udit, I've been seeing you in a lot of spaces on Twitter recently, a lot of spaces. And I'm sure you handle a big team of at least, I don't know how many people there are in your team, but I'm sure you have a lot of things to do, but yet you are investing that time in building your personal brand and building a community in Twitter, which is very fascinating to me. All the CEOs and all the founders coming into the game of content creation, focusing on building communities, So I'm just trying to know how do you manage it? How do you manage a team? How do you manage, kind of every day trying to shift that needle in your business forward, and also focusing on building community? Like, how do you go about it? What is your basic productivity routine? Like a cliche question, but I would like to know about it.
So no one better than a founder can sell something. No one better than a founder would be more passionate about their own products and brand. Absolutely. No one else. So the way you can passionate talk to people directly about what you are doing, no one else can do. No matter how hard you try, no matter how much you push, when you speak, your passion will show up. So that is the most critical part. And at the same time, it helps me to get in touch with the end decision makers directly. So for example, even creators are our target audience. You would find a lot of relevant softwares on Pitchground for your own self that you can use to automate. You can build your courses. We have softwares right now at this stage where you can host your podcast. You can distribute your podcast. We have those products available. So this helps me to be directly in touch with all of these people. And that is the most crucial part. And at the same time, it gives me an opportunity to share my experiences, because a lot of Gen Z people are on that community, and we relate to them very thoroughly at that point of stage. So I keep on sharing my experiences, and I keep on sharing my mistakes, and I keep on sharing of what's working and what's not working for me. So when I do that, it inspires people to take decisions, to take better decisions. Because if I can even help someone to make 1% better decision, what I feel is I have done my job as a creator. And in 2022, you will slowly start seeing more entrepreneurs turning into creators. Because that is the only way to build out a company identity, is when there is a unique identity of the founder. You look at, let's take an example of Shark Tank India. Most of the people did not have heard about the brand, but did not know anything about the founder.
Yeah.
But now they know more about the founder than the company itself. This is the power of personal brand. And then they're pushing that personal brand, the new discoveries, to their brand directly, which is also helping and supporting, because if people like the founder, they automatically start liking the brand. If they like the founder, they will not like the brand. Again, you're not going out there in founder to make someone like you or not, but people will have this perspective whether you want to make it or you don't want to change it. People will always have this perspective whether I like it or whether I don't like it. So this is why it's very important to take this in this particular approach.
It's like, so there is this bias in psychology. So what happens is, if Udit like Nike shoe and I like Udit, I will like the Nike shoe. If I don't like Udit and he like the Nike shoe, I won't like the Nike shoe. That's
this right? This is where the influencer marketing comes into picture.
Marketing comes in, absolutely.
Why do people pay like $400, $500 for a Jordan shoes? The cost is still the same to produce that shoes, right?
100%,
but they feel I can become that next Jordan. And that inspires people to sort of do and take action. So again, people buy from people. People do not buy from brand.
Makes sense. Okay, Udit, it has been a great conversation. We are just diving in the last segment of the podcast, which is called Twitter Dives. I am going to just read out your tweets, and I would like for you to elaborate upon those tweets, so people kind of get the, a deeper knowledge of what the tweet meant. Because I believe that most of the times the thought process that you have in your mind while tweeting can be different from what people understood it. So that's why. So the first tweet is, it says, always run a side hustle startup and just give 4 hours a week. So there can be a lot of different insights that you can pick from this particular tweet. So I would love if you will elaborate upon it.
So when you run a side hustle, it keeps your mind engaged. And I am a kind of a person who doesn't like to sit idle. I cannot just sit idle and think, right? I would rather take action. So when you put up a side hustle, it keeps on giving you more things to do in life. It will never keep you idle at any point of stage. And that helps you to keep going. Now, even while I'm running Pitchground, I'm running Little Sats, which is the parent company name right now. I have already started a small side hustle project that is currently in stealth mode right now. Right? That is keeping me busy. That is also keeping me what all things to do. And that is directly connected to Pitchground. So this is why it's very important to keep on running something inside, because again, this helps you to connect with more people. Now, I'm not saying make it full time. That's not the goal. The goal is that you spend just 4 hours a week. That's it. Just 4 hours. That's half an hour, right? Like 30 minutes a day. That is more than sufficient for you to sort of run something on site. Now, what will happen is it will give you more opportunities to connect with more people, because in your industry, you're tied up with connecting with certain people. So that is the meaning behind it, that always run a side hustle. Because if the founders of MailChimp did not start side hustle, today they wouldn't have made such a large, massive $1 billion exit, because that's the biggest side hustle story in the world today.
And I think it is also like, when you are so engaged in your core thing, if you have that small escape where you're also getting creative and also smartly thinking, I think it also brings you to your main core thing that you're doing, and you get more creative, you get more ideas. But it's almost like, like when you are kind of writing an article, there are some mistakes, but at that point of time, you cannot see it. But if you go out for a walk, you come back to the article, you will see those mistakes and then you can improve upon it. So I think I just kind of understood it in that way, that it just get you a bit more creative and bring that creative thinking in the main thing that you're doing, which is great, right? So the second tweet of it is, you said cold emailing will always remain the most effective and profitable channel to drive new customers. Why is it going to remain the most effective and profitable? Please tell us about it.
Because you, again, getting and selling one-to-one. People buy from people. I stick with what I keep saying, right? People buy from people. Cold emailing is not brand selling, it's one-to-one selling. If you want someone's attention, you have to give them the priority You have to understand their business and you have to solve problems. So when you do cold emailing, you are trying to solve that problem. You're saying that, look, I understand your problem. Let me help you to reduce your cost, or let me help you to grow your business. This is what I'm trying to do. So that is where one-to-one selling comes into picture, and cold emailing will remain the most effective way even after 50 years. Tomorrow, Twitter can die, Facebook will die, or any other platforms can die. Emails will still remain, because that's a way for you to create a unique identity for someone to get in touch with you. You might contact me on Twitter and I might not respond, but when you send me an email,
you will.
There is a 99% chance you will actually get a response from me, because as a business owner, I start my day by checking my emails. I end my day by checking my emails. I don't start my day by checking what's happening with my Facebook account, whether someone, I don't care, because someone who is a real professional will always send you an email at that point of stage. So there is chances of responses. The chances of getting a response goes up drastically. You can definitely follow up on all of these other channels, but emails will always remain the most effective way. And it is also the most cheapest way at the same time.
Absolutely.
Because it's not costing you anything, right? To send out an email. If you're using softwares to send it in bulk, maybe a bit of money. So now if you're spending thousands of dollars an ad versus a small chunk of your money on reaching out to mass people via email, chances are you would sell it.
I think it is like wherever there is direct human to human one-on-one touch point is going to be the most effective, because that person is going to make the decision, not like you can convince them far better than your ads will. It's almost like that. Yeah. So which is great. Okay, Udit, it has been a great conversation with you. Thanks a lot for joining in, man. Just to summarize this, tell people what has been going in Udit's life, where people can follow him, what's going on in the Pitchground, and where they can follow your journey of wherever you are heading towards, to the moon, ideally, and I hope. But just tell people where you're heading to and where people can follow your work and whatever you're trying to do.
So I think the easiest way is just follow me on Twitter. So my ID is Udit, simple 6 characters. That's it. So you can follow me over there. It's easy to reach out to me over there at the same time. So I put up like all my stuff about my life, about everything, right? I'm more of that text kind of a person, basically. This is why like Twitter sort of like resonates more with me. So you can follow my work over there. You can follow Pitchground over there. You pretty much like end up getting into my funnel if you follow me on Twitter. In short.
Yeah, everywhere. You are going to see the Pitchground ads everywhere. He's a performance marketer. He know how to kind of, get yourself, grab you in the funnel. So just follow me on Twitter and you will see whatever else Udit is doing.
If you want to get into my funnel, just follow me on Twitter.
Which is great. Okay, Udit, it has been a great conversation, man. Thanks a lot for joining in.